which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First up on the agenda is our school community session and public participation. So,
Thank you. Good evening. The board welcomes public comment at our meetings, whether in person or on Zoom. When speaking, we ask that you state your name and your address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. I will let you know when your time is up. We're happy to hear from our community, but at a business meeting, it should not be expected that the board or the administration will respond. Public comment is not a time for public discussion. If necessary, the community member will be contacted for follow-up. If you're joining us tonight via Zoom, we ask that you raise your hand and you will be called upon. Do we have any members of the public in person who would like to speak? Yes, please, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Eva Van Camp, 29 Bridle Path Lane, Madison, Connecticut, 06443. Good evening, thank you for your time tonight to hear my plea to allow my daughter Madison to remain in the school district and request a waiver for reduced tuition. My family would be here tonight, but they are at soccer practice and Cub Scouts. I hope you excuse the fact that I'm reading, that this is my attempt to be professional and get through this without getting too emotional. All my daughter would tell me is cringy to play up Madison for Madison angle. I really want you to know how perfect the fit has been for Madison in this community and school district. I also want you to know how much our whole family loves the school system you have established. I have received military orders to relocate to New London to serve as the Assistant Superintendent of the Coast Guard Academy. This unique assignment requires me to live in government housing on the Coast Guard Academy, as you will read in the character reference for my future boss. We have 2 children, Madison Polson and Blair Ryerson. I feel we became part of the Madison family once we moved here in summer of 2020. My daughter describes Madison as a little slice of paradise. It breaks my heart when Blair says he loves Ryerson and doesn't want to move, and my Madison says in typical teenage fashion that this move will ruin her life. I currently serve as the Senior Operational Commander in the state of Connecticut and the waters surrounding Long Island. I have dedicated my life to ensure the people and commerce of Connecticut is safe within the maritime environment. Despite this being a 24/7 job, I have volunteered any extra time to help the Madison Rotary Club and Madison Beach Club support initiatives, help the Madison schools as a mystery leader, the guest speaker for the Polson Veterans Day Assembly, and in 2023 will volunteer as a mentor at the Exchange Club at Madison per request. We have gladly been part of the Madison community for nearly 3 years. I want to emphasize that we're not asking to parachute into the Madison school system for reduced tuition just because we're a military family. We truly are part of the Ryerson and Polson family and are asking you to help us stay because we have seen firsthand the tremendously positive influence this community and schools have had upon our daughter. Madison is thriving at Polson as a straight A student. Principal Hart will attest that my daughter is positive for Polson as much as Polson is for my daughter. Hopefully you will see this as a win-win. Ryerson has been amazing for Blair, but we cannot afford tuition for both children and believe he is young enough to endure a third move to a new school. Our daughter requires no special education, transportation, or medical services of any kind. We will ensure we never become an additional burden upon the school system. Besides excelling academically, Madison is one of the strongest players on the Connecticut Rush soccer team, ranks among the top 16 swimmers in the entire state of Connecticut for her age group. Because of my work, Blair and Madison have made many moves and they have been troopers. This will be Madison's 5th school district. To rip her away from her friends, and more importantly, top-notch education is crushing to me, and I beg your consideration of this request. We firmly believe that if we can secure the reduced tuition costs, despite the commute from New London, which my husband is already excited about, it is worth to keep Madison in the school environment she loves. I fully understand the financial burden the good people of Madison have to afford such wonderful school system. I do not take any of this for granted. I also understand the concern that this will start a cascading amount of other similar requests, but offer that my scenario is extremely rare. Again, I strongly believe that this will be beneficial to all involved. I'm grateful for all of you've already done for my family and appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We don't normally get involved in discussions back and forth, but I think the board would be fine with me just saying thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your new commission.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone on Zoom, Zoe?
No hands raised.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, we have our student representatives reports from Lucy and Eli. Welcome, thank you.
All right, so trimester 1 just got finished, which means exams. And I think the consensus from the kids in the school is that they went well. You know, people were stressed out, but not to the level where it was overbearing. And I think people handled them relatively well. We also just got done with our first play of the year, which was 8 plays around the world. I wasn't able to go see it, but I think people said it was a really energetic environment. You know, it went really well. A lot of people had a lot of fun. We have chorus, jazz band, and chamber ensemble concerts coming up. So the chorus concert 7:30 tomorrow in the auditorium or the cafetorium, whatever you want to call it. And the theme is a winter theme, so I'm assuming they'll sing Christmas songs. I'm not exactly sure, but next Wednesday, jazz band and the chamber ensemble are playing their concerts, and those are both free for everyone who wants to go. And coming up, we have our blood drive.
And also something to look forward to next week is Spirit Week, kicking off winter break. Always looking forward to that. The themes were announced during this morning's announcement, but unfortunately my second period class is a little rowdy and I wasn't able to hear it. But I'm sure Flannel Day, Whiteout, we're top contenders, so that was the student body coming up with ideas for how we can get a lot of school energy. And then following the Spirit Week, we'll have a pep rally on Friday the 23rd. It's a short day, so another thing to look forward to. And our winter sports started today. I know girls basketball had an away game at NFA. They might be wrapping up right now, or they just did. So I hope that went well for them. And any other teams that were opening today. Going back to last year's winter sports team success, the boys basketball team has their state championship ring ceremony next Friday before their home game against Guildford. So 2 very exciting things to look forward to. January 11th, as we mentioned last time we were here, was the scheduling starting for the underclassmen. So Eli, unfortunately not myself, but the program studies will be updated online. Eli and I got a sneak peek into one of the new courses offering this year. It's an ASL class and it goes towards your world language requirement. And if I had another year at hand, I know I'd be signing up for that. So I was disappointed that I won't be here for that. On a final note, the class of 2023 will have a picture being taken of our whole grade. Instead of the blue day from the senior picnic, we'll actually just be in normal clothes. And it'll be a good way to remember our senior class.
Thank you.
Any questions for our student reps? Thank you very much.
Have a good break. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for these. If you guys are all behind us, we really appreciate it.
You can buy something on your reading list for it.
Yes. Poor people.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Cook, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kleski. Tonight, we really wanted to go high level and introduce the concept for some of you. I know board members who were here when we redistricted not that long ago, and maybe other board members have seen it in other places from their work or other volunteering or avenues you've been involved in. But Gail and I, really Gail has done a lot of this work was on our Gantt chart. And so we, again, just want to present a high level. We're going to project it and also give you a larger copy. See through email. But I would like to ask you to take it over.
I think the first time we did this, we had a Gantt chart, and that was to close Island Avenue in 2019. And just to remind all of you just what that looked like at that time, it was closing Island Avenue, it was a K-4 building, changing Jeffrey and Ryerson from a K-4 to K-3s, changing Brown from a 5-6 to a 4-5, and moving grade 6 to Polson. That felt like a lot. But actually, now I know what more feels like. 2025, we are now closing TCLC, Ryerson, and Jeffrey. We are building a new pre-K through 5 building. We are recrafting Brown to become a K through 5 building. And those changes result in including pre-K in a building for the first time ever. Models changing, possibly looking at lines and where they fall. And the moves far surpassed our first round because we're moving every single person and every single classroom, pre-K through grade 3, some 4 or 5 classrooms as well, and all of our pre-K to 3 students and some of our 4 or 5 students. So thus the Gantt grew from like half this size to the full shape. So I'd like to thank the entire central office team for working. We've been working on this for 6 months at least. And behind each of these activities is more detail that we actually follow up on. So what you see as one line, we see behind the scenes is probably 6 lines of actions that we need to take. So we really try to help the board and offer the board some direction about some of the decisions they need to make. And the timing of that, which I know Diane's going to celebrate, but there's a policy on tonight about naming new schools, and that's very important to us. You can see that that falls within a very reasonable timeframe, but very early work for the board. So that is an important policy to us. You can see that some of the things we can move to kind of the latter half, and we move that way because changes to our demographics can happen, changes to our population. We have to staff accordingly, so it gets really challenging to do any planning for that before really 2024-25. So that's mainly in our administrative services and some of our facilities work. But very early on, you can see some of the communications, the board work, and the schools really start very soon and have started. All of this, of course, is draft. I know say that, very drafty, because it's a long window of time. It was almost easier for us as an admin team to plan for a year because there was a lot that had to happen in that year. It's really hard for us to project what everything looks like going forth during that period of time. So we still are planning to be responsive to whatever things we didn't plan for. And that might even be in some of the details behind these activities. But this was helpful to inform the public about the redesign benchmarks. And we would update it periodically, and we would darken the bars, or hopefully we'll show some yellow bars this time and complete some things beyond our plans. Because I think there's a fair amount of angst on behalf of faculty, students, families, that we try to alleviate with, like, we do have a plan we have done this, you know, and I keep joking that you shouldn't really do this twice within your tenure in Madison. And I'm like, that was like within 6 years, it's really kind of remarkable. So we remain fluid, but I wanted to share this with you as a draft. We still have to do like a few more vetting rounds, I would say, with some other people before it's firm and ready to be posted, but we'll be posting it as soon as possible. Here's my high level.
Very helpful. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lot to be done.
So much to be done. Yeah.
I didn't even know there was this size.
I didn't either. It's really called a poster size print that.
I think it shouldn't be a Gantt, it should be a gigantic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next time there'll be yellow.
There's yellow. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's,
A lot of fill it in.
it's a lot of stuff to do, and I think, you know, it's just something for the board to be mindful of, is that we may not talk about that all the time in board meetings, but it's all the work that we're gonna be doing in the next 3 years. Yeah,
I'm tired already.
it's gonna be fun.
It's amazing to see though, like things you don't think about, like phone systems, we designed and implemented, like there's so many layers and levels to this work. And I think seeing this laid out in this way is helpful for everyone, but
Yes.
shows us that we know it's a big project, but there's so much that we don't even realize, so.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
You're just making this chart.
It was really a logistical nightmare. And I mean, she really did this. I looked at Dr. Cook halfway through the summer and I said, I'm gonna need more time. This is really bad. Even so, we had to like get our hands into this. And she was like, okay. And Sheila as well. So we had lots of people behind the scenes trying to make these bars.
And as Gail shared, there's many levels behind this, so we'll be happy to share that at some point.
Oh,
when
God.
we dig in.
It's overwhelming.
In small doses.
Online.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having the 3 years. You know, we have some decisions people wanted to know February 16th, and they asked us February 16th. And other ones, you know, that we've been able to kind of start working on, but not as public. But, you know, it is, it's very helpful to have this available. You know, we'll be updating that if you're absolutely sharing the report. You Gail?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been afraid this.
Are you? It's good reward for your work.
Also suitable for training is the 23-24 school calendar. And so we wanted to, you know, this is the time we share this with the board. We're hoping for approval tonight on this. I just want to share some highlights and a little bit more history. 2 years ago, we discovered that our previous calendar format, which included symbols and a lot of additional information, was not ADA compliant. So we had to go to what the format is you see here, and it uses bolding. We are able to use that slash, and it's a cleaner version, and it is ADA compliant, and goes on the website. So we're a little bit more restricted, and so we made some continued changes on that you'll see. Want to point out the first day for staff is the 24th. This current year, we did 3 days for staff. The first week they were back, 5 days for students. This calendar proposes to do 2 days for staff the first week, one more day, the 28th of PD, and then the 29th would start 4 days in the first week for students. Staff and some families, you know, gave some feedback that those 5 days were pretty long for the students. It's also, we don't have air conditioning everywhere, and obviously, you know, late August tends to be very warm. So feel that will be a little bit easier entrance into the school year. The last day of school is June 10th, so still targeting a pretty good last day of school before it gets too hot. There's 182 days for students, 6 full days for staff. There are also, I want to point out, this year we have one half day, half PD day on a Tuesday. There'll be 2 in this calendar for next year. So we're trying to achieve some half days near the end of the school year to work on some timely things there when we don't have full days available to us. Those are pretty productive because what we attach those to is the Tuesday meeting days. So we actually get more time with our staff because we combine that with a normal meeting day, morning and afternoon. So it's really helpful. Wanted to share, we do not bold the board meeting dates, and the reason we are doing that is I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about that you know, families use the calendar for, is when they're not in session, we list the dates, and we're happy to look at other ways to communicate this, but it makes it a little difficult when we can only use certain, you know, we can only use bold, and so, you know, a family may look at, you know, why is a Tuesday in October bolded and it's a board meeting, not a day off. So we were concerned for the confusion there. And I wanted to provide some input. So we share this as required with the teachers union, and they thought this was a good calendar to present. That's required by the teachers contract that they have input into it. Shared it with also our PRC groups or our PTOs. receive this and provide some input. 2 surveys that were, one survey that was conducted by a parent. I shared the board with some information on that. She had spoke at PRC and then also to me as well about her request to have November 1st as a day off for students and have that be a PD day. You will see I did not do that. The board has their calendar policy that speaks to wanting to have as many full weeks in the fall season as possible. Because there, traditionally is the days off in the fall that make for less than 5-day weeks. And so I was concerned with giving up a day for students in that realm. And then also we received quite a few letters from students at the middle school that wanted to make sure that they were able to travel for the eclipse that will happen on April 8th, 2024. In order to have a good viewing of the eclipse, you have to travel north of us in New York State or Vermont. And so, that was a school day that would most likely prohibit them from convincing their families to travel up there. I also had some teachers from the high school make that pitch pretty strongly. So it was nice that stars aligned on this that was the Learn calendar week off, and I was able to provide that, and I would be happy to get back to those students and let them know that we're able to do that. So as the calendar, happy to take any questions.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
The first question is listing the dates. I know you did this before, listing the dates and explanations on the side and all the months on the other side. Is that part of the ADA compliance or is that just a preference?
Rather than in the middle?
Yeah, like it used to be the dates that pertain to that month were next to it. And it was like that, so that it was like an easy reference. Personally, that's my preference, but I'm just wondering if that had anything to do with the ADA compliance or is that something else?
Yeah, I don't know per se that was ADA. I think it was just a change in the system we use to create it. So I don't know that that would be an ADA problem per se. I'd have to check on that, but I think it was just more, this was the new system we started using template.
Taking all the names of what the holidays were, is that ADA also?
Taking the names off?
I mean, not just saying school holiday and not.
No, that's not ADA. Yeah, we could.
That's the superintendent's preference, as well as that policy.
I thought you were gonna say, can we vote on the new policy again? Reopen the calendar policy.
Start that again.
I like I think this looks great. I'm glad it works out for the eclipse. That works out nicely. And it's April 8th being a Monday, so you have the whole weekend to get to wherever they need to be. I like having it side by side to just go down, like I know when I'm personally doing my calendar, I like just writing it, having it both places. So I find that looks great to me.
Yes, because my preference is the old way now, just because
I think it's
Look
just
at it for
personal
so long.
preference,
Yeah.
it's just how you use it.
the way you think.
Yeah.
The way you. Oh, my other question was, with regards to having the Wednesday off after Halloween, what are the other districts doing?
I had not seen that prior to coming to Madison. I know they had done that in the past. I had not seen that within the Learn region as we looked at other schools.
I mean, it started off as a temporary thing, and I think people just got used to it.
Like that, yeah.
I'm not in support of it, just.
Yeah.
For your information.
Okay.
I don't think they need another day off to break up their week.
And our policy that we ultimately agreed to continues to have the prescription that we try to keep as many full weeks, academic weeks as possible.
Yeah.
In between holiday breaks and stuff. So. It's good. One thing that you lose if you try and stack the key dates next to the months that they fall in is it seems like you'd have to have smaller calendars in the middle to be able to fit text on both sides. Whereas if you just put it down the left column, you just fit more and the calendars themselves are larger. It's fine.
And on October 9th, it says no school students professional development, but it doesn't actually say school holiday. Is that just because of the verbose with it? It's PD. I mean, I know
Well,
it's
it
a
is
PD day.
technically. a
Technically,
holiday,
it's
but
because
technically
our
it's also
holidays
professional
are
development.
with regard to students, not with regard to staff, because they have their own contracts. So on October 9th, it says, it does not say school holiday, it says no school students professional development, and the same goes for March 29th, which is, I believe that's Good Friday.
It's not a holiday for the staff.
Or I'm sorry. March
Yes, that's
29th.
why we wanted to make sure that October 9th appeared different because it is different for staff. That's why we had done that. There's no reason we could put no school.
I mean, it becomes
Yeah.
very long if we try to
Yes,
include all
right,
of
I
it.
think
I was
that's
just
what
thinking
we
that
were-
was why.
yes.
It's just because everything else followed the same.
Yeah, I know we talked about that.
Yeah.
So try and make it.
Yeah, it looks like anytime it's a staff professional development, it does say no school for students.
as opposed to
Intentionally
school
down like
holiday.
October
Yeah.
9.
Because a holiday would be for everyone.
Yeah, and I think teachers are using this just as much as
They are?
community members.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is our calendar that we go by. So when you look at it and you set up your calendar, you want to see that there is no school for students, but you have to report.
If it was just for students, we wouldn't have August 24th, 25th, 28th on here.
That's true.
You know,
Right.
that's not as a parent, but that's important for the staff, so.
Yeah.
That's important for the PTO.
Yeah. One really big question. Sure. Why can't we leave the names on what the holidays are for? I just want to know why. I guess
Sure,
I need to
yeah.
know.
For me, I saw it as becoming a controversial issue across districts. And so we had started to just look at different ways to tabulate it. And the other districts were starting to just use school holiday because it's really used as a tool to communicate when we're in or in session or not, and not really a tool to say when holidays are. I don't think families would come to this to say,
Except
when
they
is
call
Thanksgiving?
it a holiday, so it's a holiday for something. But we're not discussing what it's for.
Well, the word holiday.
And I'd also like to know, you said you did a survey or people, do you know who that survey went out to see who in our district, how they felt about it?
I didn't survey that. I referred to surveys I received from families, from a parent and then from students. And then the learn area is what I pulled from. Anything else on the calendar?
I would just like to note that, when we voted on the policy, we decided that we would throw Craig under the bus and let him decide. And, if anyone was unhappy with it, they can come to him.
The names of the holidays aren't specified in the policy itself.
The names of the holidays are not specified in the policy itself. It's specified as that we follow Connecticut statutes and state and federal holidays. So if you want to know what each actual holiday is, you would have to Google it.
But we read it in the, I thought I read it in the policy when we were going through this. They had all the dates, remember you had crossed off some,
So
That was the
so
policy.
in the policy that we
The names.
passed,
the names were in
no, they were not. It was state and federal. I
there,
don't
and we
know
were
exactly right.
following the state and federal. and that was in there.
Legal
Yeah.
state and
But I
federal
mean, that-
holidays
they
that
were
were not
written.
listed individually. We did list the extra days that we wanted to give the students all as a holiday that were
Yeah,
not in
But
the
they were
statute.
all listed, I saw that.
They were,
But they were, it was
I
crossed
understand,
out.
I understand.
And so the new policy that we passed does not contain the individual holiday names. It says we are following state and federal statutes. The only days that were named were Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the Friday after Thanksgiving. Because those days are not part of the Connecticut statute, but we want to give them as a holiday to students.
And isn't this all in the minutes from, this has been a discussion for.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it does. I don't want to discuss it, I just, it's
what I
all
read.
in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, when I looked at this, I did stop and say, what holiday is this? Because, some of them are always in flux, but
That's just to have it. Well,
in like a brain.
Right, well, yes, but I mean, I do prefer it the other way, as you are all very well aware. But as far as the calendar itself and the days off and the number of days, I think it's just fine.
You don't wanna talk about it.
I don't, but you can have a chocolate.
It's one of the ones.
And then I just, one quick note, as you know, we received the accountability reports. I will speak to the executive committee, but targeting February 7th, our original plan was to present them in November, but we just received them last week. And with January being dedicated to budget, we're looking at February 7th to have those reports. And then congratulations to Daniel Hand, Ryerson, and Jeffrey for being named schools of distinction. There's only 126 schools of distinction in Connecticut. So for Madison with its 5 schools to have 3 of those is really great news. So excited to celebrate that achievement with staff. That concludes my report.
Well, you stole my board member comment. Thank you very much. I was going to congratulate the district and Daniel Hand and Ryerson and Jeffrey on attaining their distinction status. That's fantastic. Any other board member comments? Any other board member comments? Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on to audience response to information presented.
We have no one.
Thank you. Board of Selectmen liaison, is Scott on? He said he might be on around, he may be here around 8 o'clock because he had to go to another meeting first.
He is not on, and I have not received any communication from him
Okay,
at this moment.
if he
pops
hops
on, I'll let
can
you
you
know.
let us know? And
Yep.
we could, yeah, we'll see if we can just put it in out of order, if nobody objects.
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll pass on that for now. Consent agenda, item number 8. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Jen,
I'll second that.
seconded by Emily.
I just have a question
Yes.
about the line item transfers. Just the on the bottom, not the last one, but 2 above that. What that is.
Oh, that is the names of the individuals who occupy the new
Okay.
positions.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't
Yep,
sure. I'm like, it sounded a little unusual.
course.
So I'm like, I think that's a name, but okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Action item number 9, motion to approve. no, just did, Sorry. Sorry. Item number 10. Board committees and liaison updates. Curriculum and student development, which met this evening. Stephen.
Yes, we met this evening. 30. In attendance was Jen Gordon, Kathy Miller, myself. Along with being present was our assistant superintendent and superintendent and Seth. We adjusted the agenda this evening because one of the items on the agenda, the presenters were ill. So that's been postponed to January 10th. The agenda that was presented was the wellness curriculum. It was a pretty comprehensive presentation, so let me summarize it. What was presented was the product of the work that began in the summer. It is the first year of a 2-year process of embedding and taking the state frameworks around wellness and bringing them to our curriculum, as well as developing a vertical curriculum from kindergarten through grade 12 that involves social work staff and counseling staff and interdisciplinary meetings with other PE and health educators as well as regular educators. There's an aspect of this that is innovative as a curriculum in terms of really increasing the focus and emphasis and bringing the profiles of the graduate into every aspect. It was noted that the focus was more skill-based curriculum than content, which is not to say it doesn't contain content, but the emphasis was really around developing skills. You know, an example of that would be, starting with kindergarten students and helping them identify different feelings and emotions and having them work through that process and developing a common vocabulary across the grade levels for talking about social and emotional issues. Another important note was an emphasis on exposing all students to social work and counseling staff versus the traditional model, which is focused more on those that had identified needs. So one of the outcomes that was absolutely strengthened through this process is that all students have a sense of who counselors and social work staff are. There was more, they emphasized that this process, particularly as you get into the upper grades, middle school and beyond, there were more choice for students in terms of what they're exposed to. A significant change is that each member of the social work staff would be presenting 2 to 3 lessons per year directly to classrooms. What else? It was a combination of embedded frameworks in the health and the classroom curriculum and standalone presentations by members of Madison Youth and Family Services as well as social work staff. Board comments, there were several. The focus of those generally was underscoring the need to involve student voice in this entire process. There was a lively discussion about possibilities, both in terms of social media type approaches to just gaining access. And there have been in the presentation a number of surveys to students to really ask them what is important to them. Another message from board members was underscoring how important to the entire board the whole concept of wellness, mental health has been, both in the retreat that this board has and ongoing conversations this board has had. One of the things that was noted, this was a presentation of curriculum that is primarily by counselors and social work staff. And, I think it's confusing for the public, and I think it's confusing for board members seeing the whole framework of the support network for kids. The curriculum is only one part of that. There are other aspects in terms of advisement and school culture issues, so that it's hard to sometimes separate when you're looking at pieces, what is the full network and support for kids. So that that was something that was mentioned. I think that is about it. There were not any community comments, and We adjourned at 6:30. End of report, barring any questions.
Any questions for Steve? One thing I will add is that, one thing that we discussed at the curriculum meeting was, did the folks who presented feel it would be helpful to have additional social work or other professional staff on board? And the discussion was held where Assistant Superintendent Darling Hench reminded us that there were 3 social work positions that over the next couple years, or 2.
2 social work, and then we have written a grant to get an
Yes.
additional counselor.
Yes.
So we don't know if we've gotten that grant yet, but we hope to get it.
Yeah, and so we're hoping to get a grant, and we're gonna potentially lose the funding for 2 social workers going forward in a couple of years. So their answer was yes, they do feel that having more professional staff on hand could be helpful to the support of the students. I just thought that bore mentioning as well. So any other questions for Steve? Nope. Okay, thank you. I'd like to, if we could take a moment and shift back to agenda item 7 real quick, in deference to our guest, Scott Murphy, who we agreed we would agree to go out of order and take his Board of Selectmen liaison report. I know he was at.
Should I speak to the camera?
You were at another meeting.
I was. Well, I have to say too, watching your Facebook post, I'm amazed that you're here with the voice finals tonight, and your son playing the slide guitar. It's pretty awesome. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Multiple songs last night, by the way.
Priority.
Yeah, you're taking one for the kids here, that's for sure. So thanks for having me, guys. I'm sorry I haven't been around as much as I would certainly love to be. The Madison Youth and Family Services is always on the same night as this meeting. So it's, between that and I think I was in Florence at one point, and a long laundry list of excuses, but I thought of it.
It was only Florence, New Jersey.
My son actually almost booked his flight there, by the way. Would have been a problem. There's a Florence, North Carolina, I found out too.
Okay.
So a couple of updates from the board select. We have had 2 meetings, probably since the last time you guys have met. On the 29th of November, right when I got back from Florence, we did talk a little bit about, did I say I went to Florence? We are talking now about and have officially sunset the ARP committee, so the American Rescue Funds. So there is a little bit of funding left from that. And I think that it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 or $50,000. Those dollars now will be reconciled with the Board of Selectmen with existing recommendations of how to use that coming from the ARP committee. So they have officially done their duty, and we appreciate all their service, and onward and upward. We did talk a little bit about our new charter, which did pass in November, which is pretty exciting. So over 20 boards and commissions are kind of officially now moving to 9. So we'll be talking about sunsetting some commissions and committees that may no longer be of service. They were of service in 1984 or whenever the last charter was passed. It was quite some time ago. But I think it was time to start to disband and rethink and repurpose and things like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. Carrie, actually, our town attorney, will be doing a FOIA overview for anybody that has not received their proper FOIA update. So that will be, I guess, notified and coming out. We've talked a lot about accessory dwellings. Marijuana was a hot topic, so we did have a whole topic. I remember a couple of you guys, I think, were on for that particular session, talking a little bit about the moratorium that's in the town of Madison right now. It's coming up as of 12/31. We will be deferring that moratorium one more time period by P&Z, such that we can have the committee figure out kind of the next generation of recommendations. What should be done in our town? Should we have one store? Should we have multiple stores? Should we allow growers? There's all sorts of debate about that and what should happen. On the 6th, the Board of Selectmen meeting focused on your tennis courts. So that was a hot topic, pretty exciting. And we will be using, I think, some American Rescue funds to help complete the tennis courts. I guess we approved the engineering firm and the permitting process was in place, and pickleball will happen on these tennis courts. So super excited about pickleball, I guess. Everybody was pretty pumped about that. Billy was on and did talk a little bit about the Brown renovation, which was exciting to hear sort of, what's going on there in terms of the engineering firm being approved and moving what's happening, I guess, in this new K1, he called it the East Wing. So we were excited to learn a little bit more about what's happening there. Some great synergies going on between our board and your board. We talked about the dog park. I know that's been a hot topic in the town of Madison. We do have a dog park down at Salt Meadow, and hopefully that is going to come to fruition after, 20 years of discussion about that. So pretty excited. There will be some upgrade in fencing and plantings and all that. To dovetail off of the mental health conversation you guys were just having, we did have a presentation by Chief Drum and Scott Cochran from Madison Youth and Family Services about the successful pilot that was conducted, a social worker that rode with the cops over, I think, a 2-month period of time, led to like 50 or so different opportunities for additional social work on the back end of calls. So we are likely to recommend that as a potential position to move forward with on the payroll of the police department initially, maybe moving that then ultimately to Madison Youth and Family Services down the road. But just a sign of the times that it's needed and how much it was used and how much it was leveraged and the benefits that came as a result. There's a whole report if you get a chance to take a peek at it. But I think it really does speak to the connections of things that are happening in our community with the Board of Ed, with our school system, and certainly with our police department. So that was a great session. And we're really leading in that space. I think that's an important point to note, that there are not many towns that are doing this. Guilford does have one, but not many towns have come down the path of a social worker. So this is sort of looking at Madison as being a leader in this space, which is pretty exciting. I just left, as I mentioned, the Madison Youth and Family Services meeting, and one of your youth, who's a senior, who's waiting on her college decisions in the next 2 days, was talking tonight. And I have to say, I was really excited to learn, I guess, one of her projects that she's working on in conjunction with Principal Salutary, as well as Madison Youth Family Services, is a TED Talk. And so if any of you guys on the Board of Ed, I know who you are, have ideas maybe of TED Talks or, hot topics that might be relevant to the community, there is, I guess, we were approved for our license to do it in Madison. It was kind of a big deal. So she's really been pushing for this, and it's likely to happen March 10th is what she told us. So yeah, so kind of a neat thing for Madison. So and student generated, which I found even more exciting. So yeah.
Scott, where could we find that report that you mentioned for the
Yeah.
police and social service?
It's probably on our Board of Selectmen website now, but I can make sure it gets up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, super easy. Scott, I probably have it in my email. Don't
You send it to me, if not, I will
Yeah.
track it down.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's like an 11-page report. There's an executive summary that he delivered to us that was super helpful. It's like a page and a half, which kind of gives you the bullet points and results of this survey, but kind of the experience that happened with the pilot. But it was really successful. They did a really nice job. Yeah. So, that's it. End of report. I always love saying that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any
So
other
official.
questions for Scott while we have it?
Any members of the public?
Thank you very much, Scott.
Pleasure. Thanks
Very
for having me,
informative.
guys. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, getting back to the order of things, Facilities Committee report. That was in there.
Yes, thank you. We have not met since our last meeting. We are meeting via Zoom only next week, Tuesday at 4:30. But I would like to ask Galen to give an update on some interviews that he sat in, the facilities representative.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I sat in for Emily on a committee about the Brown School renovations. And the upshot is that the committee decided to accept WJ Montfort's bid which happened to be the low bid, but all bids were tightly bunched, which is a good sign because it showed that the project docs and estimates costs were accurately specified and estimated. In addition, Mountford has a very good reputation, and the scope of this project seems to be in its sweet spot. The project to renovate Brown will begin June 16th, right after school closes for the summer. In the meantime, the team hopes to measure all 262 doors for replacement during the Christmas holiday. They feel that they have adequate lead time for procurement, and then they plan on going full tilt during the summer. They do want to complete the work by August 15th because there is a priority on keeping the workers and the construction separate from the kids upon their return to school. The committee also reviewed the scope of the work with Tecton. And this included some of the things that we as a board have seen. Adding 10 additional kindergarten classrooms, the layout of those classrooms, redoing a ramp to make it ADA compliant, lowering windows to ground level, things like that. Bill made a report to the Board of Selectmen. I guess it was on Tuesday, this December 6th. And in the future, Bill will meet with Colliers and Tecton bi-weekly to monitor progress.
Thank you, Galen. Appreciate it.
Any further questions for Galen or for Emily? Okay, thank you both. Finance Committee, don't give up the gavel yet. Galen.
All right, thank you. Finance Committee met today. The meeting was called to order at 6:35. We raised the topic of the budget calendar for 2023-24. There were no public comments. The meeting was closed, adjourned at 6:35.
Wow.
Very efficient. Any questions on that detailed report?
Never.
We also gave everyone there $5. Item 10.4, Personnel Committee, Maureen.
Yes, thank you. This one's quick also. We have met and the negotiations are ongoing with the new nurses union and we'll meet again within a year.
Thank you. Policy Committee, Diane.
We have not met since the last board meeting. We meet next week by Zoom only at 3:30. But we do have some policies that are on our agenda this evening. The first policy is at 9220.5, which is included in your packet for informational purposes only. We did review it at the policy committee meeting and determined that we were not going to make any changes to that particular policy because the new town charter says that the Board of Selectmen, they fill vacancies on the Board of Ed, so there's no need to change. If you read the policy, it just says vacancies on the Board of Ed shall be filled in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, the Madison Town Charter, and the Board of Ed bylaws. So there are going to be no changes to that, and the policy will just reflect that it was reviewed and not changed. We do have several policies up tonight proposed for rescission. We will need the policy committee recommends that we waive the second reading, and so they are agenda items this evening. So we will need a motion to waive the second reading before we actually vote on the rescission of them. And the notes from Shipman and Goodwin are included in your packet. It's pretty explanatory. I won't go through everything. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Then included in your packet are 3 policies that are a first read this evening. So they are not an action item. They will be at the next Board of Ed meeting. And that includes policy 7551, the naming, renaming of school buildings, components of buildings and or school grounds. 9220.2, board member oath of office, and 9225.43, attendance at meetings via electronic communications. And I would be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. And Seth, do you want to do the motion now to waive the second reading? Do you want to do it right before?
I think what I'd like to do is make it the last action item, so we'll make it action item number 14, and then we'll only have to change the numbering from 14 on down. If that's okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask another? Yes. So 9220, the board membership, so it says to repeal as it's not permissible by
Yes.
Shipman. So this is the one that talks about term limits.
Yes,
So what does that mean? There are no
So-
term limits?
So Shipman and Goodwin, said that the Board of Ed cannot, put in any limits that are not in our town charter.
Okay,
We have to follow, the town charter always supersedes,
okay.
and so we're not allowed to
Center.
set our own limits in that way. We follow whatever Connecticut statutes are, we have to follow our town charter. And if you read our town charter, so the town charter just recently changed, and a lot of things were removed from the town charter, and it's very, very minimal now, and it pretty much just says like how many members we have, and how to replace them if they leave early. There's really nothing else in it. They don't need to be bonded. We don't have to be bonded. There's no limit to how many terms you can have. There's the only thing that it says is if a board member resigns, that you have to follow a certain guideline for replacing them, and they would have to be of the same party or independent, if they're independent. Other than that, there's nothing else in the new charter.
You said about the chairmanship too, there's nuances there that how many years you can be a chairman without then re-voting, and then you have to also have a vice chair. You have to, recommend a vice chair.
Maybe it would be helpful for us to have a little review of the new town charter and how it relates to the Board of Education. I don't know if that's through policy or through a little mini workshop right or next retreat.
And so I didn't know if, a lot of times we try not to reiterate what is in the town charter in
I
ours,
appreciate
and so we
That
are
makes sense.
removing them.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have it written somewhere, and so, maybe like there was another policy where we were talking about, let's see, which one is it? Where it was like good information,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it
the
wasn't
more
really
legal
policy.
status.
Yeah, things like that. It's good information for the public to know, or for board members, if you want to become a board member, but it's not really a policy,
Yeah,
and so it's
yeah.
being removed from policy. So we were talking about having something maybe on the website or something like that. So we'll discuss that again,
Makes sense.
and I'll throw it credit.
Yeah. I believe Joe McDougall was the chair of the charter commission. Does
Be awesome
it
to
make
have
sense
him.
to have him come in and just give a real quick presentation?
He'd love to do it too.
Yeah, no, I know it would.
With Joe.
Not like the whole charter, but maybe.
No, no, no,
just
just
part.
what stuff that-
Yeah, just
Yeah.
pertains to
Just
us,
what
yeah.
pertains to the
Yeah, I
board.
think
There's not a lot in it. It was, very,
You need the flavor more of it.
yeah. Was it?
All right.
So
I can reach out.
So did that change how then we have been, like, were you on and off and that's all gone now? You guys-
Yeah.
It's like a clean slate for staff.
Okay. No,
He's like a new babe.
Yeah.
Just one.
So I just wanted to also say that I've been chair for policy for a year now. And when these are rescinded tonight, if they are, we will have taken care of 102 policies in the first year.
Did you put some more candies in there?
No, there's 100 candies there,
Oh.
minus ones that people have eaten, so help yourself. And, whatever's left, Wendy gets what she's not here.
Congratulations.
End of report,
Um,
unless anyone has any questions about the policies. So I did notice though that it says policies proposed for rescission, and we need to have a motion tonight to waive the second read, but it's actually not an action item. I don't see it as an action item on
No,
the
it's
agenda.
not.
So we would have to
We
have
would have to add it. That's what I was working
yeah,
on.
okay.
Have to add it first and then to vote to add it, vote to approve to waive the second reading, and then
actually
vote
vote on
to actually rescind.
Okay.
So that'll be action items 14, 15, and 16, basically,
Yeah.
in a few minutes. Any other questions for policy before we move on? Thank you very much. Good report. Learn liaison, Mary Ann.
I don't have a report this week.
Okay,
We'll be meeting in the beginning.
thank you. And Town American Rescue Plan Funding Committee, gee, Emily, I don't know whether or not you really are technically still the liaison since
As
fitness
you,
ended.
I'm looking at the CIP know. Yep, you heard it from Scott.
All right, thank you. Town Marijuana Advisory Committee, Mary Ann.
I haven't been, but you guys have. We will meet.
Yes.
So, did
Yes.
they have a date or?
No, not yet. They have not selected a date, but that needs to happen for sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to start getting a little more action there.
It's a committee of slackers, like what's going on?
No comment.
I won't say it. Okay. All right, so next action item 11, motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar. Do I have a motion?
So you take it, Kathy.
Okay.
I'll do the second.
No, you take
Kathy.
Oh, no, okay. We do.
whatever, and the other will go second.
Who's on first?
Motion by Kathy, seconded by Emily, sorry, catching up. Any discussion? Any discussion on the school calendar that we haven't already exhausted?
If there's any comment, I suggest you call your superintendent.
There you go.
Should we change the number on the?
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call,
Just scroll it up.
call the vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, and the abstentions. So it is 8-1. Thank you very much.
I do like the holidays this time.
Okay. Action item 12, motion to approve the minutes of the November 29th, 2022 Board of Ed meeting.
So moved.
Chair, seconded by Marie. Okay, any recommended edits, changes, amendments?
Dr. Cook's name is misspelled.
There was it missing an 8?
It was.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Eagle eye.
Should
Should
we,
have been an editor.
which,
Oh, it's
Under 8.3, second
Yes.
paragraph.
8.3, all right, duly noted. Can we, any further discussion? All right, well, we vote to approve it as amended with an E added on to Dr. Cook's misspelled name under section 8.3. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Abstentions, the ayes have it. Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Motion to approve a donation in the amount of $3,000 to Jeffrey Elementary School from the Jeffrey PTO to fund buses for field trips. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Jen. Any discussion? I would like to say that that's a wonderful donation. As always, the PTOs are wonderful and they donate a lot and it's greatly appreciated. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Additional action items. Okay, so it actually is on. I didn't realize it is on.
No, that was added for you because
it was
I think Wendy
Okay.
recognized that might be better.
All right, so I need a motion to add an action item at number 14. Add action item number 14 to motion to add an action item number 14 to waive second reading. They do them both, waive second reading of policies for rescission
What the numbers?
and approve the rescissions of the following policies, and they are listed here. Yes, that would be 50-50 school attendance objectives, 50-50.1 compulsory attendance, 50-50.2 entrance age requirements, 50-60 registration for school, 9200 school board legal status, 9220 board membership, elections and appointment, 9220.1 board qualifications, 9220.7 board election campaigns, number 9240 treasurer, number 9350 control of funds, number 9353 bonding of officers, number 9430 appointed board officials, number 9540.6 suspension of rules of order, and number 9560 school board work sessions and retreats. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
From Diane, seconded by Maureen. Okay, and that is to add this action item, waive the second reading of the policies just enumerated, and vote in favor of rescission. Any discussion?
Yes. Outside of the minutes, are these old policies retained anywhere? Archived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, yep.
Yes.
Is that it? Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. All right. Did them all together, so we don't need to do this now.
Was that motion to add the agenda item?
Yeah, it was to add,
Okay, so
to
now,
waive, and to adopt the rescission of.
so now we actually have.
We did all three. No. I
You
did
oh, you did all
in
three at
one.
once, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, I did an omnibus action on it. So then that's actually number 14. So now we get rid of this one. And then we renumber 15, 16.
So future agenda items would be number 15.
Yeah, but the copy I'm looking at, which is the minutes version, is different from the packet version that everyone has, because there was an attempt to add in some of the extra stuff. So 15 will be, it really should not be future agenda items before executive session. So we should do,
Are we gonna do meeting and dates of appointments?
we should do that last. So we should do, actually,
So discussion of
Action item on
16.
okay, so 15 will be motion to enter executive session purposes of discussion of student tuition matter. 16 will be motion to conclude executive session. 17 will be action item on student tuition matter on the record. 18 will be future agenda items. 19 will be meetings and dates of importance. 20 will be adjournment. I know, bear with me, it's a long time till we get there, but there is an adjournment. All right, so skipping on to item 15. I need a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing a student tuition matter. And that would be including Superintendent Cook and Assistant Superintendent Dolly-Getch. I'm sorry, that was so moved. by
I'll do
Diane.
a second.
Jim, second, thank you. Any discussion about entering an executive session for that purpose mentioned? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? 9-0. We will now go into executive session. Scott, you may be dismissed, but grab some.